Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like when we were digital. Pulled out a couple archives here. This is August issue 2 of 2021. Calvera Skin Therapy. Thanks for gracing the cover. And it's always nice to hold the magazine in. What was I doing back then? This issue was 164 pages. Must have been the anniversary of the USA beating team, the Soviets up in Lake Placid, and I got to play on that rink 2 weeks before the Olympics. Went up there with my prep school and the Princeton Day School. We chartered a bus up there, and we played Lake Placid High School on Friday night, and played the Northwood School, which is a top prep school in hockey in the country. And 2 weeks later, the Olympics started, and then the Team USA brought their second gold. A lot of people think that was their first gold medal. No, in 1959 or 1960, I forget what it was. They won their first gold medal. And Herb Brooks, who was the coach of the Olympic team in 1980, he got cut the night before they went to go to the Olympics, and he didn't make the team. And that team went and won the first gold medal. It's a little history factor. I was watching a documentary on Herb Brooks the other night, and I did not know that. And he always had a bitter taste in his mouth because he got cut from the team right before they left, and he didn't get a ring. Could have been a taxi squad's guy, but anyway, when you get cut and then they bolt, it's got to leave a sour taste in your mouth. But then he went back, brought the college kids in, beat the greatest team, the Soviets on the ice. I mean, it was a really proud moment. But I'm telling you, playing on the ice a couple weeks before then, and it was freezing cold. Lake Placid in January, cold, cold, cold. But anyway, I'll tell you, my last issue I printed was August 21st, August of 2021. That was the last issue I printed. We still set it up to print on demand. So if anybody wants to get a copy, they can. But I don't miss the printer. I don't miss the post office. I made the transition from print face-to-face to digital, and I haven't looked back. It's been an amazing ride. Nowhere in my wildest dreams would I ever think that I would have, people, coming to our site as a destination point for, content and construction, commercial, etc. So everybody out there that's found us on the web, you're gold in my eyes. I really, really appreciate you, and you can't imagine how much stress it's taken off of me, because when you go from print, you don't know what's going to happen in the digital world and everything else, but I was just lucky I had a digital magazine for all those years, and it was just it's been an amazing ride. Last year I had about 49 million people hit our website. This year I'm on pace for 70 to 80 million. Now, the algorithms change on YouTube. Hey, I can't control it. I just roll with the punches and move on. But yeah, it could be an amazing year. If I go once I go over 100 million, that'll be a serious benchmark for me. So, but like I said, anybody that's out there that's finding us on the web, we really appreciate it. I'm sitting out here on my porch. I just finished, for some of you know, I was building my house with my wife over the last 10 months. I moved in the middle of June. It's been about a month since we've been up here. I'm just getting my studio finished. I just put my neon signs and how I wanted to, do my podcasting recording place up there. And so eventually I'm going to move myself up here, but I like it. It's nice and quiet. It's pleasurable. It's nature. I got coyotes, bears, bobcats, all sorts of stuff that are behind me here. So I've definitely invaded their territory. And my neighbors used to say, "Hey, we used to go hunting on your land all the time." And they would come down through the highway, through your land, across the street, and then into the other one, down to the lake. And the other night, my neighbor had a big black bear cruising across the driveway in the middle of the day. I was just blown. I knew there were bear up here, but it was a big old boy. He was not starving either. He was nice and plump, had a good belly on him. And but there's all sorts of things back there. At night, you got to come out of here prepared, armed, because you just never know what's in. And those fences are 5 feet. The foxes and the coyotes, they can jump that stuff. So I got 4 dogs, rescues. One can't even hear. He'd be like a little a little appetizer for them. But you gotta keep your head on a swivel here up at night. You never know what's gonna jump out and get you. So with that, got a nice gentleman. He's basically on the, hey, he's on the western side of the United States. His name is Chad Hufford. He's with Veritas Wealth Financial. Hopefully, I got that right. He's in Anchorage, Alaska. Chad, say hello to our listeners out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
David, it's great to be here. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to encourage your audience and help them pursue a more abundant life.
Well, the reason why I had Chad on is because, listen, I just turned 62. Was I going to take Social Security? Was I not going to take it? My parents have been on my butt about doing an exit strategy. I've been doing publishing for 25 years. I've got my hands on a couple other things. And there are so many businesses out there that are in the commercial construction sector, whether you're a contractor, an HVAC, flooring, light, I can go down the list. You might not have any, your kids might have gone off in their own direction. You might not have anybody have to give to. Do you make it employee owned? How should you handle it? And it's always nice to talk dollars and cents from a common sense. And with the world right now, it's an amazing time to be alive. And there's so much going on in the world that every day is never a dull moment. I kind of catch up at night and I'll scroll through my phone like, wow, I didn't know that one on and so forth. And listen, I don't go to the mainstream news. I don't go watch that stuff. I go on YouTube. If I want to I find some credible people that I like that I know that tell it like it is. And I don't go down the rabbit holes. I do my own research and look and see. But the world there's just so much going on. It really could be the golden age, and it's been an amazing 6 months. I can't wait till the rest of the year. July is like the midway point of the year. I always tell people, look, if you're going to make an assessment, you want to improve on anything, look at the end of June 30th or July 4th weekend. Look what you did the first 6 months. Look at your wins, your learns. Remember, you either win or you learn. You never lose. And W and L's are always good on the board. And the bottom line is, it's your time where you can. It's like halftime in a football game. You're in the locker room. You can kind of tweak, assess, maybe rehash your game plan. Maybe someone got hurt and you have to stick someone else in. Maybe someone else got hurt on the other team. You have an advantage. You want to take advantage of that stuff because you want to get the W. And then you got to go out and take action. You got to execute. And you got to play for the whole 6 months. And at the end, if you execute it and you practice as you play, you're probably going to end up with that W on the scoreboard. So that's where I'm at right now, going into the second half of the year, pedal to the metal, just get everything done off my to-do list and stay positive, put my blinders on, always be moving forward. Don't surround yourself with negative people. And because there's 8 billion people on the planet and there's plenty of people that want to play in your sandbox. And just, you're going to make mistakes. So that's the way life is. You got to learn and you got to move on and keep things simple. So I wanted Chad on here to kind of talk about, financial wealth. What, do you have a plan? Do you have a living will? Do you have all these that things that are necessary as you get older? Because you just don't know when your time's up. Uh, I had one of the guy that went with me up to Lake Placid. He was co-captain with me my senior year. Just died of brain cancer, 62 years old. I didn't even know he had it. I just saw it on a Facebook page, and it really hit me hard. And I was like, damn, Ray was young, man. He's only 62. So, uh, anyway, that's why I had Chad on today, not to be morbid, but it's always good to get someone that's been in the industry and understands. He talks to all sorts of people of all different wealth levels, and we're all in the same boat. You just want to have, as you get older, you want to have financial independence. You want to be able to leave money to your kids, the right way, so the state or the government doesn't get it. And you just want to have a plan. In construction, you have a plan. You execute it, you finish it. Same thing with your wealth and your financial stability. So, Chad, the way we're going to do this is we're going to do it in three parts. You're going to tell your story, basically your bio, where you grew up, what school, and how you got into wealth management and Veritas today. We'll talk about the last 5 years because everybody has a different story on how they weathered the storm and what they saw out there, and maybe some trends that you see coming down the pike in the second half of 2025, going into 2026. And then you'll leave your contact info and one positive thought or phrase. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Well, real quick, David, you gave us a little tidbit around the 1980 hockey team, Miracle on Ice. One of my favorite quotes from the movie that they did, I think it was just called Miracle. Disney did it maybe 15 years ago. And one of the assistant coaches is asking Herb Brooks about this player and that player, and Herb's like, "Well, they're not on the team," and they're like, the coach is like, these guys are some of the best players. He goes, I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right ones.
The right ones.
And it just really resonated. Like it's not about having the bet, it's having everything fit together into cohesive unit. I mean, kind of goes back to what you were saying about having a plan. But you started us out with a little tidbit of history. I did not know that Brooks was cut as a player from the previous hockey team. So I'm gonna give your audience a little tidbit. You said that we are out in the westernmost part of the United States. You're over there on the East Coast, about as far away from each other as we can get, still stay in the United States. David, what do you think the easternmost, so Alaska is the westernmost state. What is the easternmost state?
I'm going to say Maine.
Okay. So this is for all your audience, this is a really nice, like some bar trivia if you want to win a free drink or something like that. The
Sure.
answer is Alaska.
Alaska.
Alaska is the westernmost and the easternmost
Oh yeah,
state.
it's got the little call it whatever you want,
The
bridge.
the Aleutian chain actually stretches out into the eastern hemisphere. So technically, Alaska is the westernmost and easternmost state. We win both titles.
Yeah, I always think Maine is because it's so far out there in the Atlantic, and it's going to get the sun at 4:30 in the morning, and it's just so far out there. But you're right, man. I forgot about the Aleutian Islands there. As the world's round. I'm not a flat
Yep.
earth, I'm a round guy. So hey, it's right there. Yeah. So there you go. Hey, I just learned something. I learn something new every day. The day I stop learning is the day I should go do something else. Right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's the beautiful thing about both of our industries. You can always get better. You can always learn. We joke about on our team that we meet people sometimes that say they have 20 years of experience. Like, no, you have 1 year of experience 20 times. Like there's a difference between somebody who is always learning and growing and somebody who's just repeating, doing the same things over and over again. I love what you said about you never lose, you learn. Well, I would have to push back a little bit. Some people do lose because they don't learn. But just real quick, we're talking about my background. So I have a degree in biochemistry and uh, grew up here in Anchorage, Alaska, homeschooled in the 80s, long before homeschooling was cool. It might not be super cool now, but I can guarantee it was definitely not cool back then. My David, my mom made our own clothes. They matched. So, there was these horrible like stripe patterns. We'd walk around looking like a traveling Where's Waldo convention. It was awful. But that's how I grew up, total nerd. So shouldn't surprise anybody when I went and got my degree in biochemistry. But one of the things that I learned in that process is the only difference between failure and an experiment is if you're going into that situation willing to learn. If you're going in, I just think of all these business owners where we talk about failures and setbacks, but if we thought of those things more as experiments, what can I learn from this process? Because in biochemistry, you did a lot of planning, you did a lot of research, but at some point you had to execute, and it usually didn't go the way you wanted to. You had to pivot, you had to learn from the process. So I love what you said though, because yeah, it's you make the choice whether you're going to lose, whether that's going to be a loss or a learning experience. I just have a little bit different metaphor, but we think of it the exact same way.
Hey, listen, I've lost a lot of games. Don't get me wrong, but my mindset, I took a sabbatical back in 2023 and I went digital. I thought I knew everything. I didn't. And I kind of just took some time off, told my wife, I go, look, the magazine, we're just going to start building this house. I want to get this, I want to get certified, Google, Microsoft, so I can do all the stuff for their digital agency. And it was an amazing thing hanging with some people in this masterminds group that were well before MySpace, before even the internet. These guys were just, at the beginning of it all. And but the biggest thing that was you got to have a positive mindset. That is that your mind battles with you all day long. I don't care if you're an athlete or a business person, if you're in a relationship. I look at life as business, athletics, relationships, sleep, you eat. I don't know what else you do in a 24-hour day period, but you only have so much time. And as I just turned old, I just turned 62, and I'm like in basically the third period of a hockey game of my life. How long I'm going to live, I don't know. I mean, I have good genes, but like I said, my friend just passed away,
Yeah.
so you just never know. But right now, I'm just trying to get the most out of every day, make the best use of my time, and just surround myself with positive people. And you're always going to have things. Listen. Every day is going to be different. Some day it's going to be cloudy, some day it's going to be sunny. It's your responsibility to get up every day and make a positive. If you make your bed in the morning, that's a positive action. Whether you're at the 5 a.m. club or the 10 a.m. club, whatever you get up, make your bed. There was a commander, and I think he was in the Navy. I forget his name. He did a keen, an address at graduation, and he just said, "Start your day out right." And it was such common sense. Make your bed. It's a positive action. It's done, and you can start your day. And I always tell people, start your day with a positive action, end it with a positive action. And if you go to sleep with a positive thought, most likely you're the following day, even though it could be like a blizzard out there, you still could have a positive day. And but going through all of that and learning the digital stuff, and it was an amazing thing. So my whole outlook has just kind of changed over the last couple of years of dealing stuff. And um, uh, yeah, being positive is probably you just got who wants to hang out with a glum, oh, I can't do this. It's no fun. All work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy from The Shining way back when. So I'm all about just, like I said, I like to win. Winning ugly or winning pretty, it's still a W. But I'd rather win a 4-3 game than a 15-0 game. You know what I mean? That you're just padding your stats. So I just kind of like, as an athlete, I just want to look at being able to look myself in the mirror every night and say, hey, I left it all out in the field. I did the best that I can. I've learned. It's time to get some rest, get some REM sleep so I can go and do it the following day. And I want to be better than I was yesterday, and I want to be better than I am going to be tomorrow. So always be improving. And it's just the name of the game. And uh, I always didn't used to think like that. I used to be a chirper and this and that on the ice or on the lacrosse field, but not anymore. It's just I'd rather let the scoreboard, tell the story. Who wants to be a yacker? Just let your actions speak for themselves. And like you as a wealth person, you know, if you know you did a good job, if you took someone that had very little wealth and they followed what you wanted executed, most likely they'll see their wealth management go off where they become more financially or mentally, whatever they're trying to achieve in that wealth management sector. Um, that's really, really cool in my book. Have a plan, execute it, tweak it, and redo it again. Right?
Well, and you talk about mindset and how important that is, David, and it's absolutely critical. But I think people have an unhealthy view of what optimism and a healthy mindset should look like. So I believe optimism is believing that my circumstances, my life will be better in the future. It isn't that my circumstances will always get better. Because if I'm looking for every single day to be a little bit better than the last one, then there's no allowance for those setbacks, for those learning opportunities. And we tell people all the time, there's no growth inside of a comfort zone. If you are winning in the short term all the time, you're probably not putting yourself in situations where you're stretching and growing. So when it comes to not just finance, but life in general, we think of optimism more like, and this is, the Alaska reference because I was born here, but more like a mountain range. It isn't every step up. It's jagged peaks. You go up, you have to cross some valleys before you keep climbing. Too many people, we just want a staircase. Actually, people want an escalator. They just want to stand there and this thing brings them up. But it doesn't work like that. Every step does not necessarily elevate you, but it does bring you closer to your goal. And very true in wealth management. I mean, even as we're sitting here talking, not to timestamp this too much, but coming out of these tariff tantrums and all that, we saw a significant decline in the value of a lot of different assets. And that's okay. The best companies in the world went on sale for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But if you're expecting every step to elevate, every step to be a mini win, then you'll miss some of the bigger wins in your life because there's life is full of setbacks, and sometimes you have to cross some valleys to keep climbing.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. I just kind of I just look at it as just like this house. I never built one before. And everybody told me not to do it, oh, you should hire someone. I'm like, no, 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 we can do it. I come from a construction family. We've been in business since 1888. We were in sustainability and recycling before they were even words. And I just told my wife, I go, look, we already have all the subs that we need. All we need to do is get a grader, framer, concrete, roofer. some windows, and get the house dry. Once that's done, your crew will come in. We don't have to babysit them. We know what they need to get done. It'll all be downhill from there. And plus, we'll gain some new contacts, and hopefully they'll all be local up here. And then if we do another bill, we can bring everybody in like our family and treat them like family and get things done. And uh, but looking back at it, I mean, I had my doubts, but listen, I remember when we were going to put the basement in. The grader told me, "Oh, you're going to need about 150 loads of dirt to lift the house up to put the basement in." And after we cleared the land, from the back of that fence down here was about a 25-foot slope, and it wasn't cut like a Z, so you could put the basement in. He's like, "David, I know I told you 150 loads. I think it's going to be more like 400 at
Wow.
$200 a load." And I was building it for my mother. She's 85. Her mother lived till she was 100 something, and Nana Goldie was like 106. So she's got good genes. If she doesn't take a fall or anything, she probably last, another 15 years if she's lucky. But I said, look, we're going to build you a little casita for my sister, and if you guys want to come down and hang, you'll have room. We'll have a nice kitchen there. But it was about 2,000 square foot down there, and to put the retaining wall and all the dirt and everything, I called her up and said, Mom, ran into a little snag on the plan, and our driveway was going to be like a roller coaster. Uh, Getting rid of the basement because I could build a whole other house for that, and you'll still have a nice big griddle. And besides, you're going to have to go upstairs or downstairs to get to the basement, so you'll have plenty of room open on top of it. And believe me, you'll have your place. Come here with your boyfriend, hang if you want, and you'll have. Wendy will have, my sister will have a space too, and but best decision I had. Now, my wife designed the house. Was she a happy camper? No. But reality set in when we were looking at it. I'm like, do you know how much dirt? You bring a load of dirt in, it just disappears. It's like it never
Yeah.
there. I mean, it's very silty and fine. And but I just looked at it. And I called her up and said, Houston, we got a problem. You got to come up here and look at this right now. And so we took the month off, had to get all our plans kind of readjusted. Really didn't do much except move the garage to the back. But at the time, and it was so nice. And then it rained a couple more weeks. So I must have lost about 6 weeks of getting the build done during the summer when you want to get it done. And but looking back, I'm glad because it made the build so much easier. And uh, we had basements for everybody in Georgia's got a basement because of the tornadoes and stuff. And I told myself, my first house I had, the tornado hit our house about 6 months we were living here. I was living, hit about 2:30 in the morning. This is before cell phones and all this stuff. And weatherman's either it's going to rain or it's going to be sunny. They have a 50% chance of getting it right. So the storm came, this tornado came in and went right across Gwinnett County through down, old Atlanta. Anyway, it was so close to the house, the water pressure was coming through the windows about 2:30 in the morning. There's debris in the air, lightning. I'm sitting in the downstairs bathroom on the slab with my wife, my kid, and my newborn and my dog. I had no place to go. And I looked at her, I said, we are selling this house. I will never live in Georgia again without a basement. And so this house we built without the basement, but my neighbor next door has one. He has one. We're empty nesters. I didn't need all the space. And so I just said, look, with all the technology today, we'll know if the storm's coming in. Everybody will, bring a bottle of something and, we'll hang out and watch the storm blow over. But, winning and losing, I just, I as an athlete, I've scored a million goals. Do I scare if I score any more goals? No, I've had my hurrah. I told my wife, I go, look, I'm looking for X amount of shifts on the lacrosse field. Same thing on the frozen pond. I want X amount of shifts just to keep myself going. When I get older, I'll put me in a wheelchair and I'll go. I just, I want to keep going and pushing my body to its limits. And as long as you take care of it and maintain it, it'll probably, be with you until you stop breathing. So I get the whole but I'm optimist. I'm an optimist. I just, I am I going to win every game? No. I've been on one team that was undefeated. We went 20-0 in the AAA league here, and that was the only undefeated team I was on. I was on a really lot of good teams, and I was on a lot of lousy teams. And however, I was still having fun. And when you're not having fun, you got to go do something else. So, but wealth management, a lot of people don't like thinking about it because it's not a fun topic. But to me, you got to talk about it because it's reality. Because if you don't know what you're going to do with it, especially if you have kids and if you don't have a plan, it's so important.
Well, and I like your story, what you just talked about with the basement and all that. It required you to pivot. It required you to change, and there's been a lot of that over the last 5 years, a lot of pivoting in all of our businesses. Um, and there's a quote you used, a McRaven quote, the retired Navy SEAL who said, "You make your bed in the morning. If you have a bad day, you just come back to a clean bed." Right? So, another military quote for you. General Patton before, or not General Patton, General Eisenhower before he became president. He was famously quoted during World War II. He said, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." And I believe no plan survives first contact with reality. You experienced that. We experienced something similar. I told you offline, we built a house 2017, 2018, moved in 2019, right before everything shut down. And I was really reluctant. I did not want to build. I just thought, there's a lot of nice houses out there. We can buy one, we can remodel if it's not perfect. And my wife was like, we're not spending this amount of money just to then remodel. Like, let's just do it. Let's do it right. And I was adamant. I did not want to build. She was adamant that we did, and we compromised. We did it her way. But the
Of
way
course you
she
did.
yeah, the way we got the way I got suckered into this is we had a couple friends that built with a custom builder here in Anchorage, Alaska, and they were so happy with him, which you don't always hear from a builder. You hear a lot of horror stories. Um, so we already kind of had this guy on our radar, and then he built this home that my wife saw, and she's like, "Chad, this is perfect. Like, we need to come look at this." Because this is our home. All we need to do is funny. You took your basement out. She's like, all we need to do is add a basement to this and then a homeschool room. Um, and once we have the schoolroom in the basement, like this is the house. The flooring, the cabinets, the countertops, the backsplash, the floor plan, like it's all going to be the same. We'll just make a couple minor tweaks, even the pulls on the cabinets. Like I want all the decisions are made. David, the only thing that survived that build process was the flooring.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh yeah.
Everything else got changed. In fact, some of the contractors, some of the subs that were working on the house that we went and saw, that kind of was the model that we built from, didn't even recognize that they were that this our home was built off of that home. But here's the difference though, is even though there's a lot of pivoting, there's a lot of changing, we always had a plan. There was always something guiding our decisions, connecting us from where we are to what we were building. And nobody would want to buy a building or move into a building that was built without a blueprint, but too often we build our futures without one. And what ends up happening, at least from a financial standpoint, is you have a lot of people who aren't really strategically building. They just spend their career collecting investments. It's like somebody just collecting building materials. It's stacking up in your yard. And then at 58, you freak out. You're like, I got to retire in a few years. I gotta try to get all these materials to fit together into a cohesive strategy. But if people start with a blueprint, yes, your goals will change. You'll have to pivot, things will come out of left field, and then you reevaluate. You revisit your blueprint and then you revise it a little bit, but you always have a plan guiding your saving and investing decisions towards the future.
Yeah, you mentioned two things. Patton, my grandfather was a combat engineer in World War II underneath Patton. He rebuilt all the bridges that the Allies bombed during, and after the war, and they had the recycling. So I've got all these Super 8 8 millimeter
Hmm.
movies that we put on disc. Anyway, yeah, the scrapyard's just full of tanks and Jeeps that they, cut up and, use that metal and stuff. And the other thing you mentioned about that Miracle movie where where the assistant coach is talking to Herb Brooks, he's like, "Hey, who's going to make the cuts or whatever?" And I was watching the doc. I just saw it the other night. It's amazing you just said that. But there's a scene where they got their asses kicked before the Olympics started. They played a couple exhibition games. Anyway, they got the team out on the ice, and he's just making them go back and forth doing suicides on the ice. And then the facility director came and goes, "Hey man, you guys got to get it." He goes, "No, turn the freak. We're not going anywhere. We're not done." And they've been doing wind sprints for hours and hours. Then they turn the lights off, and he goes again, again, and he was just trying to find out who the missing links were that weren't going to be there because he wanted the right people on your team. And that really You want the right plan and you want the right people because if everybody buys into that vision, like on a construction project, you got subs, you got HVAC, you got superintendents, you got concrete, you got all the stuff. If you get everybody buys into it, they all have their specialty, man, things can run really, really smooth, as far as I'm concerned. So those were really two just chit-chatting. It's amazing that you can pick up on stuff that yeah, absolutely.
Well, and kind of to your point earlier, and this might even be before we started recording, be talking about how you and your wife, this home was custom designed for you. And it isn't about building the best home, whatever that means. It's about building the right home for you. And it's customized and tailored to you rather than some cookie cutter home where it's like the Stepford Wives, everybody's homes look the same and all that. You wanted something tailored to your needs and goals, and too often my industry takes a cookie cutter approach where we try to fit everybody in these boxes or in these categories. And no, it should be like a custom build process. And too many people in my industry are trying to propose a solution before they even realize what is this guy or gal trying to build? Like, what does this family need for them specifically? And we're trying to come up with a solution before we've even understood the problems.
Yeah, yeah. My mother, she's 85. So a couple years ago, my sister and I, we went out. She's in Cave Creek about halfway through the year, which is north of Scottsdale and Phoenix. And then Snowbird goes back east for the summer. Anyway, we had to sit down with her. We went over all of her financials, where everything was, and she started dating this guy. We really didn't know who he was or whatever, and they were going out of the country. I said, "Look, we just want to have everything in writing. Not that we know it's just me and my sister. It'll be 50-50, but we just want to know where everything is in writing. You got to have a living will. You need to get it updated. And very, very important because depending on what state you're in, the state could take all that money and
Hmm.
where it won't get to your kids or what have you. And uh my stepdad had passed a couple years back, and I don't know. There was something with the will that they didn't get done, and this and that, and the state got some of the money, and his son was a big time arbitrager on Wall Street, went to Stanford, all these accreditations, but he blew it on the freaking will, and it just it kind of it was a lightning strike, an opening, where you have that moment, you're going, hey, you know what? Our wills have not been updated for a long time, and lots changed since we've had my kid. Now he's an adult. He's out. We're empty nesters. Really should get those things updated, which we went and did. And but it's always good if you have parents out there. I'm stealing your thunder, but if you have parents and you don't have this conversation with them, it's life. You're born, you grow up, you retire, you pass. That's basically what life is. And you have a lot of fun and mistakes along the way, but hopefully more than the other. But you got to have these conversations because you don't want to leave a mess for someone to try to figure out. Just my wife all the time, she's like, "Where are all your passwords?" I'm like, "They're all on my phone." Someone that's phone literate could go in there. You have my combo to my phone. It's in your phone, and you should write down, put it in a book, and put it in the gun safe or wherever you have it. And but you'd be able to find everything. And I keep my records pretty good, so if someone wanted to come in, they could probably figure it out if they were. They don't need to be a CPA to come in. They could. I keep all my files pretty clean. But having just that organization made me feel so much better when I looked at everything. And my son's only 26, but shoot, he'll probably get everything, you know? And but we want to make sure that if anything happened to us from a wealth management point of view, that it would be a smooth process. The smoother, the better, right?
Yeah, and I think it's important for everybody listening. And like you said, we talk about, death and mortality. Those aren't necessarily super fun conversations, but everybody will stop working at some point, either because you retire or because you die. You should probably have a plan for both of those possibilities. Now, the retirement may not happen, but the death certainly will. But retirement won't happen unless you make a plan for it. So another thing to be thinking about is, you probably don't have a plan to run out of money in retirement, but do you have a plan not to? And it goes back to the intentionality that you've talked about, David. But it isn't just for the success. It isn't just for making your plan successful. You even allude to this. You breathe easier. You sleep better at night knowing you have a plan. So it doesn't just, whether it's your plan for retirement or your plan to your estate plan, both of those will help you sleep better at night. You mentioned REM sleep, deep sleep. Like it seriously enhances the quality of your sleep because it's one thing off your mind. And yes, having a plan that you're executing, having a coach in your corner to hold you accountable to that plan is also important. But it isn't just because it makes the plan more successful. It makes you enjoy the process more because you can rest easier knowing there's things in place for those various contingencies. Otherwise, that stress just simmers in the background of your brain and it makes you less effective at work. It makes you less effective in your relationships and it steals your joy. And if I can just use one more Olympic metaphor, do you mind?
No, 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 go for it. I love them.
Okay, so in another life, I used to train athletes. I actually had some contracts with soldiers, working with airborne soldiers and working with some Olympic athletes, some professional fighters. Anyway, I had this one guy, he's an Olympic skier, skied for Canada. You know, he trained here in the US. He was born there. We don't blame him for that. But anyway, um, he told me that one of the most elating moments of his life was standing on the podium. I believe it was the 2016 Olympics. Um, Might have been 2012. But anyway, standing on the podium, hearing "Oh Canada," and he said it was amazing. But one of the most empty moments of his life was the very next morning, waking up and realizing if he put his body through 4 more years of hell and grueling training and injuries, put 4 more years of his relationships on hold, the best, the best he could possibly hope for was to be where he was the night before.
Yeah.
All that sacrifice, all that training, all that hardship. And it was kind of like getting to this quote unquote finish line and realizing, was that all there is? And for the folks listening, like, yeah, being able to retire is great. Being able to get to a place where you have a job optional lifestyle where you never need to collect or produce a paycheck ever again, that's awesome. But we don't want that to be a finish line. We also don't want you to miss the journey along the way. And going back to what you said, David, it's having a plan and a strategy for these things, having some contingencies in place, not only ensures or better prepares you for having that win, making that success down the road, but it actually allows you to enjoy the process. Because this isn't getting rich quick. This is building wealth slowly and sustainably. It takes time. You want to be able to be present and enjoy the moments along the way and not just have your sights only set on that finish line.
Yeah, I know why you're in wealth management because biochemistry is the same thing like creating a financial business plan because everything's going to be different. Everybody's chemistry is different. You react differently to different things, but in the whole the macro 40,000 foot view looking down, chemistry is all about atoms, cells, and how they work and how they intertwine with one another. Wealth management is the same way. You've got money, you want your money to work for you. You want to be able to spend a little money. You want to have money for a rainy day. And like myself, I can't. I'm one of those guys that's not going to retire. I can't sit and hit golf balls and fish every day. I mean, it sounds like a fun, but after a week, I'd be going crazy. So my wife already knows I'm going to be. I'll probably die with a hammer in my hand. Who knows? I have no idea. But I'm one of those dudes. I just have to stay busy. Plus I think it keeps me sharp. And but in general, that whole concept of going through, biochemistry, same thing with wealth management. One other thing, you're a homeschooler. My son hated school, wanted to become a bike mechanic, auto mechanic. They had a shop class in the high school, and he was a junior. And we went and met with the high school and said, "Look, if there's one kid that you want to put in the shop class, it's him. Okay, he's not interested in English, history. He just wants to work with his hands.
Yeah.
He's going to go into skilled trades, and he doesn't have the mathematics." I go, "He'll figure it out. Trust me." Nope, you can't have it. So what we did? We yanked him out, put him in a life academy. He went and worked at the local garage. He was a waiter. He went to school, kept all of his friends, and best decision we ever did. He figured he went to FAA mechanic school at this place called AIM, 2-year
Yep.
program. learned everything, has his A&P license. He's worked for Boeing, FlexJet. And now he's moving down to West Palm here in a couple of weeks to go work for Gulfstream. And what a turnaround! Because at 6:30 in the morning, I have to go in and have to drag him out of his bed to get him into high school by 7 o'clock. The minute he found something that he really wanted to do, his bed was made in the morning. He was there early, had to be there, 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it was just I thought nothing against a barista, but I thought he was going to be a Starbucks barista going out. He was an excellent lacrosse player, but did I, and he said, "Hey, Dad, when are you going to hire me?" I'm like, "After you get fired about 4 or 5 times, you can." you know but still, I was thinking, but once you find your calling, oh my God, and you have fun at what you do, it'll change your whole outlook on everything. And it's been a complete 180. And I'm just amazed at what he's turned out to be from where it was. He just turned 26, so when he was 16, I wasn't worried. I knew a light bulb would go off eventually. But yeah, the homeschool thing, uh be consider yourself lucky that you did that, because that's a whole different ballgame.
No, I was very blessed. I didn't appreciate it, of course, as a kid. And again,
Yeah,
it was different. Like, I mean, my parents were making up as they went. My mom was very much a pioneer. I mean, nobody was homeschooled back then. Nothing but geeks and freaks. Your audience can decide which one they think I am, but I mean, that's what it was. There was they were making up the show as they went. So there's a lot more support for that. But no, very grateful that we went through that. And yeah, you need to send your son up to Alaska. We could use more AMPs up here.
yeah,
A lot of a lot of planes, a lot of pilots.
yeah,
But one of the things that you said too about you d dying with a hammer in your hands, and that's why I mentioned retirement, but I switched the phrase. If you notice that, I talk about a job optional lifestyle because we work with, as you know, a lot of blue collar millionaires. They're more driven, they're more focused, they're more ambitious. They're the worst type of people to have 25 years of Saturdays.
yeah.
But getting to a place where you don't need to collect or produce a paycheck, where you can live life on your terms and you don't have to go back to work again. Not that you shouldn't go back to work, because like you said, you probably should. The folks like us, we've got to stay engaged. We've got to stay connected. We've got to be challenged. But not needing a paycheck is such a thrilling and freeing experience because not everybody listening to this is like your son who is in a job where it just connects all the dots and their passion and purpose is being fully integrated in what they're doing. You and I are blessed to be in a job that does that. It sounds like your son is. So for some people, retirement might just be transitioning into a career that does check those boxes. And they don't need to worry about the income connected to it because they're already financially independent. So that's our hope for people, our vision for people is getting them to a place not where they quit working and quit contributing, where they no longer need a paycheck.
What's one of your favorite transformations that you helped one of your clients? Someone that was just like, oh man, he's not going to see the light, and now he followed your instructions. You put a plan together, it worked, and he's come back, 10, 15 years later and go, hey Chad, I am so glad I had that conversation with you, because I wouldn't be in the situation I was where I am today.
Well, we had a guy that moved up here from Minnesota in the oil field, and he was deeply in debt and didn't have any experience in the oil field or very, very little. It comes up here from the Midwest and starts working a plan. And we he just retired a couple years ago, multimillionaire, but it was a slow process. And he's got more freedom and independence than he ever thought possible. And but it was not something that happened overnight. The other thing too is like it wasn't like 15 years later he comes back to us. Like the beautiful thing about it is we work with him through these different stages. There's a lot of setbacks. I mean, when we first started talking to him, it was like 2008, 2009, the world financial crisis. Like people weren't even thinking about retiring. They were just wondering, am I going to have a job next
Yeah,
Tuesday?
my house is going to be around tomorrow. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So, just getting enough of a framework built where he could look past the next 20 days and think of the next 20 years was super important. And then just gradually taking this plan, revising it and refining it. And now he and his family can pretty much do whatever they want on their terms. And he doesn't have to go up on the North Slope to work in 40 below weather every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I hear that. Is as you know, we're at the halfway point in the year. We're moving into Q3 and Q4 of 2025 into 2026. A lot could happen. Like as a builder, I'm very keyed of, hey, how come I understand that things cost money, but sometimes, if you spend a little more money on something, it's just going to make your property look that much more nicer or worth more. Like, I'll give you an example. Window shades. You can buy cheap ones or we put these wood ones in it. What a difference. It just made such a difference to spend a little more money, but you weren't, and some things you don't want to spend the money on because it's not but certain things you got to look at. And uh you know when I look back, just like this fence, this like I have to stain it this week, so I'm going to pick up the stain tonight, a 5-gallon jug. Tomorrow I'll spray a couple sections. I told the HOA, hey, I'll finish it here by the end of the week. It's been sitting out. When you put up I never put up a fence before myself. I repaired them, I put posts in, and then I went and did the thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I could be a fence installer now. So added to my repertoire. But yeah, I'm still gonna, I finished it. I've been letting the weather acclimate the wood because you don't want to put the paint on there right away. It's been a month now. I've just emailed them and said, hey, I'm going to get the, weather permitting. We're going to get the thing done this week and finish our HOA plan for architectural landscaping, and then we'll be done. So, but looking back at, that person, it was a journey that he had to take. And sometimes it's not nice, it's not fun to talk about those things, but you're in reality, you're a big boy, you're an adult, you just have to kind of listen to it. And some things, being in your position, you got to give good news and bad news, or not the most fun news, right?
Yeah, you gotta tell people what they need to know, not necessarily what they want to hear. And one of the things that we bump into is people who aren't really looking for advice. They're wanting affirmation. They want a pat on the back and say, "Hey, Chad, what you're doing is awesome. You're doing everything great. Just keep on going that path." Sometimes people bring us their spouse and like, "Hey, I want you to tell my spouse that I'm doing everything right." But people who truly are coachable, who are saying, "Here's where I am. I need help figuring out where I want to be and what that blueprint looks like in between. And I'm willing to do things differently to start getting a different result." Those are the types of people that we're looking for.
When the roller coaster started in March of 2020, and what was Alaska like? How did you weather the storm yourself through your own business? And people looking at, were they looking at their wealth, or were they just looking at, I don't even know what's going to happen in the next 6 months?
Oh, it was incredibly tumultuous. So, number one, we've got 700,000 people that live in 750,000 square miles. And we were already working with people all across the United States. A lot of our folks retire, and or they snowbird, and then they tell their friends. So we start working with people in Texas and Arizona and East Coast, and we work with a lot of oil field folks. And a lot of those people don't even live in Alaska. Maybe they used to work here, maybe they still do, but they do shift work. So 2 or 3 weeks on, 2 or 3 weeks off. Then they go back to, New Mexico or Florida or wherever. So we were already very remote, even with our Alaska folks spread out across a huge state. And then, the world just shut down. So that made it obviously very difficult, but thankfully we were already doing some of the remote stuff, you know, Zoom and things like that. But our state, for those who don't know, basically we're we were built on oil revenues. And if you remember, oil actually went negative,
Yeah.
which I don't understand how oil futures went negative. We were like, well, whoever's going to pay me to take oil, like, yeah, I'll do it. Just let me know, bury the tank in my yard. But so because of that, the state budget was absolutely eviscerated. We have a lot of folks that either are in the oil industry or in oil support or oil industry kind of tangential services. And these people, yeah, we're trying to plan for the next 20 years. Like, I don't know if I have my job in 20 days. So it was very, very difficult. Also, during that same time, BP Alaska, British Petroleum Alaska, was selling out all of their assets to Hillcorp. It was I think like a 10, $15 billion sale that was supposed to close in spring of that year. And then when everything shut down, of course, that was very much endangered, that deal. So yeah, incredible amount of uncertainty. We definitely felt it, and it required a lot of perseverance to weather through that.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the I can imagine the amount of transplants that are up there that that are transient. They come in, they do that, and but when as you look at the last 5 years and going down to the second half of this year, and then what other trends do you see other than, hey, have a living will, you know, have a plan in place, 401k, all that kind of stuff, IRAs, whatever it might be, have precious metals as just a a hedge against whatever's going to happen. I mean, this la I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there, all the little things that I've done myself to kind of diversify myself. And I've already had the trophy house and all that stuff, so all the material stuff doesn't really mean not much to me. I've been decluttered now twice. I still have my Grateful Dead shirt from 1985, that I'm not going to get rid of, in my memories. But still, my suits, my ties, I've just gotten rid of all that stuff because I don't wear them anymore. My wife, I told my wife when we move up here, we're not bringing any. If you haven't touched anything in 3 years, get rid of it. You know.
Exactly.
It's
Yep.
not worth it, and memorable stuff from your family, I've kept, but a couple boxes isn't going to kill me. But it's so nice just getting decluttered because it makes everything so much clearer. You just don't have a lot of stuff that you're not using. And but what trends do you see as we move in?
Well, let me just go back real quick
Yeah.
to the last 5 years,
Okay.
and a lot of pivots, a lot of things changing. One of our struggles was keeping people focused on their long-term goals and not getting caught up in the moment. And that's, you talked about the blueprint earlier. That's what's so critical about having some sort of a financial blueprint is that it allows you to look past the moment. Allows you to look past the setbacks or what looks to be a loss or a failure in the moment, looking past that to see what are my long-term goals. And most people do not plan for the future. They react to the present. And that this goes way beyond finances. I mean, business owners do it. People do it in their relationships. They do it in their health. That's why they don't get up and go to the gym and start eat healthy until they have a heart attack. It's like you're reacting. You need to act on a plan, so you're not reacting to your circumstances. So, what are the trends that I see? People are going to keep getting older, and they're going to keep living longer, so they'll have longer timelines to have to support themselves. Also, people were talking about inflation, all that. Inflation's not a new thing. Um, so the average retiring person today is about 62 years old. If you go back to the year they were born, it takes about $1,000 today to buy what $100 did the year that they were born. So I don't see that reversing itself anytime soon. So we have to have a plan to double or even triple our income in retirement because that's what 20 to 30 years of inflation will do. $100,000 costs about $250,000 after 30 years of inflation. Um, but regardless of what the smaller micro trends might be, I think it's important for people to find out what they want for themselves, then to figure out the tools and the tactics to get there. You mentioned some of the tax things, some of the deregulation. I'm excited about all that stuff, but all those are tactics. It's kind of like if I've got I'm trying to get find my way to some location, say find my way to Walmart, whatever. But if I don't know where I'm going, I'm just looking at, well, okay, there I can see they're resurfacing this road and they're doing some things with this road over here. I'm trying to pick a pathway based on how the road appears, not where it's actually taking me. A lot of people are looking for convenient, more efficient ways along the wrong path. The first thing you need to do is find a path that connects you from where you are to where you want to be. Then you figure out, okay, how do we how do we pivot around some of these tax laws? Maybe they change 401k contribution limits. All those things are tactics. But you've got to figure out what's meaningful to you, have a blueprint or a roadmap, whichever metaphor you like, to connect who you are and where you are today with where you want to be in the future, then adapt and revise as you go.
Oh yeah. No, we're on the same plan. We're on the same page. I mean, I build a magazine every month. We've got a game plan. We got to know who the editorial is, what the ad run sheets, what our folios are. We run them 50-50. I kind of try, maintain that but I take that same kind of mindset into everything that you do. You got to have a plan for it. You got to have a vision, and then you got to execute, and then you got to look at it and be harsh on yourself. If
Yeah.
you put a to-do list together, make it a tough to-do list. Don't make it an easy one. Anybody can do an easy one, but don't make it too hard because you want to be able to congratulate yourself. And if you don't make it and you just got almost to the summit and you didn't get there, that's more inspiration, to go and do it the next time and finish and cross the finish line than than having something easy to do. And wealth management, hey, it ain't easy. Listen, I do my own books. I hate QuickBooks. It's just the reality of it. They have a monopoly. Everybody uses it. So, if someone was out there on commercial construction coffee talk land and maybe they don't like their accountant or their CPA or whatever, maybe they want to get a second opinion, how would someone reach out to you? You're in Alaska, you're 4 hours behind me, Eastern Standard Time here in Atlanta. But how would someone reach out to you to say, hey, I'd like to, bounce some questions off you because I saw the episode or I was thinking about it. You raised some good points. Maybe I need to relook at this thing. How would someone reach out to you?
The easiest way is just go to our website. It's veritasalaska.com. And don't worry about the URL. Yeah, we're founded here in Alaska, but we work with folks all over the United States, helping essentially blue collar millionaires construct their future with more clarity and confidence. So if you're interested in financial planning, you have some questions, concerns about investments, we're happy to help.
So I will put that in the description when I edit the video. I'll also put that in there so you guys can see it right there, the website. And listen, you're talking to an expert, homeschooled, 1980, Alaska, the man knows his stuff and nothing, the day you stop learning is the day you should go do something else. So listen, if you're in that, like I said, I just turned 62. Do I take my Social Security? Do I not? All these other questions. You're bouncing off people. Here's an expert. He can give you both the pros and the cons. You just have to make a decision for yourself and live and die by your decisions. That's the way life goes. But I'll make sure that that's in there. And listen, if you don't have a plan, trust me, you need one. Okay. It's just like anything you do. I don't even care if it's making a peanut butter and jelly. You got to have bread. You got to have peanut butter. You got to have jelly. You got to have a knife. Well, you could do it with a spoon or a fork if you needed to, but just little stuff like that. Everything you got to think about, and you want to do it to the best of your ability. So that's kind of where I'm at, with my thinking and stuff. And listen, the way that he got on here was by the publicist sent me a press release. I look at everything. I was like, oh, here's a person I'd like to have on here because I know how many of you out there. I know you're entrepreneurs. You're sitting there and you're probably sitting to yourself going, yeah, I probably need to get a living will. I haven't done my will in forever. You know what? That's a good reminder. So if you're thinking that way, shoot him an email, go on the website, fill out the form, and have Chad talk to you. So, listen, if anybody wants to reach me, I'm at davidc@ccr-mag.com. And like I said, I just got a press release from the publicist, and that's how Chad got on here. It's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. If you don't send me something, I can't look at it. I'm addicted to content and data these days. So send me something. It could be an anniversary for your company. It could be a new product release. It could be a personnel announcement. It could be a charity golf tournament that you're doing in Anchorage, whatever it might be. Let us, very tough to get in the magazine, but we've got a bunch of platforms. I got two nice ladies up in Chicago that post for me all day. And turnaround time is probably 24 to 36 hours, not 24 to 48 hours. Uh, it's Google index, meta tagged, everything. So your SEO, search engine optimization will find you. That's how you're found on Google. And it's a win-win. So, send us that stuff. So as we finish up, Chad, if there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd like to leave with our listeners as we finish up the second half of the year and go through the dog days of summer, what's left of it, what would it be?
Well, you mentioned how crazy and uncertain this world is. And what the last 5 years has taught us is there's a lot of ambiguity we have to weather. And I just want people to remember that what happens in their house is way more important than what happens in the White House. Your choices, your behavior, your decisions will be the major determining factor in the success of your life. So get in the driver's seat, reclaim your agency, and start happening to your life rather than letting your life happen to you.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of things you can't control. Let it go because it's out of your control. But there are a lot of things you can control. You can't control your future. You can't control how you're going to finish your day, and you can't control how you're, basically going to wake up tomorrow. So, no reason why you shouldn't control your financial well-being as you get older. It's just going to take that much more, stress off you. So, uh, listen, everything you just said was awesome, man. I like that. I like it. So, a couple things before we finish up. Number one, if you're on the construction site, we want you to be safe. We want you to be able to get home, have dinner with your spouse, your wife, your kids, your pets, uh, laugh, watch some tube, get some REM sleep. All right. That's where your eyes are closed and they're fluttering. All right. It means you're in deep sleep. Your body needs 6 to 8 hours every day. I get about 6 to 6.5 as you get older. I think you'll sleep less, but that's what I get. Don't use an alarm. Still get up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Boom, I'm out. And I feel great. Number two, if you're on the construction site, I want you to drink lots of liquid. If you're drinking water, put some electrolytes in that bottle. It's the dog days of summer. I don't even care if it's the middle of winter. You have to stay liquefied. That's the athlete me. When you get dehydrated, you don't make the pass. You don't hit the net. Same thing on the construction site. You make mistakes, slice your finger, get some stitches, whatever it might be. You drink water and you stay liquefied. Number one, you're gonna be that much more productive on the site. Number two, you're gonna go home and have a much better meal, and you're gonna sleep better, and you're gonna have a much better day the following day. Regardless of what the weather is. So staying liquefied, really, really important. Last but not least, hit the like button. I want these algorithms on YouTube to get the story out about Chad and his wealth management thoughts, out there in Anchorage and technically on the East Coast of the United States, but you know, learn something new every day. That was a reminder. I knew that. I knew that was a trick question we asked it, but I was thinking Maine. So, but uh, really enjoyed the conversation. And hopefully, listen, if you're out there in commercial construction coffee talk land, listen, if you were having these, you have nothing to be ashamed of. These are things that millions of people think about every day, but they keep just putting it off. And then if you put it
Mhm.
off too late, then it's just if you're thinking about it, make the phone call, send them an email, look them up on LinkedIn, whatever, and make contact because it's always good to get, someone's opinion. If you don't like it, you go get another opinion, and then you have to decide what you want to do. But this is a really important part, especially if you're in that last, third or fourth quarter of your life, man. Having a plan and having something executed, man, it just makes you feel that much. You can spend your time thinking about much more important things, like having fun and breathing and staying healthy, right?
Amen.
Yeah. So, with that, Chad, any last thoughts before we sign off?
No, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, just encourage people to live intentionally. Your life is going to unfold either by design or by default, so let it happen by design.
Listen to this man. He knows he and I could talk all day and bring all these phrases out. I know, man. We could talk all day. Hey, I'm going to sign off from Lake Lanier, just north of downtown Atlanta, about 30 miles from downtown. Listen, have a great rest of the summer. Stay cool out there. Stay liquefied. And before you know it, it's going to be the fall, and then boom, the holidays in here. We're going to close out 2025 strong with the momentum, and we're going to go into 2026. Like I said, between technology and AI and everything else that's going on, it's an amazing time to be alive. But be prepared, like the Boy Scouts, be prepared, and get your wealth finances in order, and your life will be that much better. So with that, Chad, say goodbye from Anchorage,
Hey, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
and I'm going to sign off here from just north of Atlanta, and we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Chad, if I get out to Anchorage, I'm looking you up. Okay.
Let's go fishing.
Yeah, man, I'm there. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next time. Cheers.